of the in the Rayshard Brooks shooting. It fuels the fire as to all the protests and the activism that's been going on in communities and also amongst pro athletes, in particular with the NBA. And one figure, Greg Popovich, head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, has not been one to mince his words when it comes to racial issues, criticizing the president, things of that nature. And recently he spoke with the New York Times, and in it he calls out Roger Goodell and the NFL for their involvement with their latest video, Goodell's video for not, where he says he was wrong for not listening to players, and their what seems to be new efforts towards supporting their players and the Black community. So I will read what Popovich says, and we can start from there and see how we feel about it. So in his interview with the New York Times, Popovich says, and I quote, "A smart man is running the NFL, and he didn't understand the difference between the flag and what makes the country great. All the people who fought to allow Kaepernick to have the right to kneel for justice. The flag is irrelevant. It's just a symbol that people glom onto for political reasons, just like Cheney back at the Iraq War." Popovich also said that Goodell, quote, "got intimidated when Donald Trump joined on the kneeling and quote, folded." It's just hypocritical. It's incongruent, he said. "It doesn't make sense. People aren't blind. Do you go to your staff and to your players and talk about injustices in democracy and how to protest? I don't get it. I think they put themselves in a position that's untenable." So basically, Popovich is saying, you guys were smart enough. You're not idiots for running a professional sports league. You guys knew what was going on. You just, for whatever reason, whether it was backlash from the president or just your own pockets or your own ignorance, you guys just never bothered. Strong words, for sure. I'll open it up to you guys. When you hear Popovich talk about that, what stood out for you?
Go ahead. Well, what I would say is, like, when I heard that, the first thing I thought about was, good. Finally, someone with a platform who is also white can really, like, poke shots at what Blacks have been trying to say for a while now. A lot of times I feel like sometimes us as Blacks, when we say things, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, like the boy that cried wolf. But when we have whites that speak up for us, it's just like, it speaks volumes, because it's like, to some people, certain specific people, they're more receptive to it. And Pop is pretty much saying what we've been trying to say for the longest. He's just calling a spade for what it is. NFL haven't really been so supportive of the whole Black Lives Matter movement for as long as the NFL has been around. Pop said what he said, straight on. He didn't bullshit. There was no backpedaling. He just said exactly what needed to be said, and I'm all for it. I mean, he didn't say anything that was far-fetched. He just stated the obvious,
Oh yeah. Yeah, Pop has been known to do that, man. He's been supporting the movement for quite some time now. I want to say years, you know what I mean? And it's funny because, when it comes to him and press conferences and with the Spurs, he kind of reminds me of Bill Belichick in the aspect that can't really get much out of that man, you know what I mean? He's going to say what he needs to say. If he feels like you're overstepping your boundaries, you know what I mean? Might curse you out a little bit, but it's the complete opposite when it comes to social injustice. He always has a bunch of things to say, you know what I mean? Which, in my opinion, is why I consider him the greatest NBA coach of all time, you know what I mean? A lot would say it's Phil Jackson. What is Phil saying right now? Like, what do these other guys say when it comes to social injustice, Popovich is always the one that's leading the forefront, you know what I mean? I'll give Steve Kerr credit too. Steve Kerr always, you know what I mean? But him addressing the NFL, like Panky said, this is new. This is definitely new. I've never seen this before. But he's right. You know what I mean? we think back to 3 years ago when Kaepernick kneeled. You feel me? Roger Goodell didn't give a damn. You know what I mean? He didn't give a damn. It was kind of, yeah, well, that's our flag, and you guys are gonna stand, or you're gonna be penalized, pretty much. You know what I mean? And him and Donald Trump were pretty much on the same team. You know what I mean? In terms of what they were trying to convey or whatever. I don't know if he agreed with him totally, but it was either that or Donald Trump bitched him. You know what I mean? Me personally, I think it's a little bit of both. You know what I mean? And you can see that after he made that speech, Donald Trump said what he said, and there was no response. So Pop, you know, he definitely did fold. You know what I mean? And besides him folding, like, come on, man. It took you 3 years to figure out what Kaepernick was talking about. It took you 3 years to, you know what I mean? It just feels fake to me. It feels rehearsed. It feels kind of like, well, my back is against the wall. All of my players are coming out. Like, I don't know if you saw the NFL video where a bunch of them came out basically saying, like, Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? I feel like that video made him feel threatened as to where he had to say something. You know what I mean? He had to. So I feel like that's what led to him coming out with that speech. I mean, because he's on fire right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I piggyback off what Fig said?
Yeah, go for it.
When you said that you feel like, you know, Kaepernick been talking about this for 3 years now, and he's just now getting behind. I feel like that, me personally, I feel that's like a real, like a business move a lot of corporations are doing now, because they see like, okay, if we don't get behind this, we're going to lose money and it's going to look bad on us. So let's try to get behind it right now so we don't get any backlash. And to me, that's really fake, because it's just like, you know, you guys been knew what was going on, like Pop said. It's just now it's just more convenient for you to get behind it now, you know. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. It's just more convenient from a business standpoint for them to get behind it now. But like you said, it's fake. It's not genuine.
Well, it took 3 years, and they didn't even say like Kaepernick's name in the apology, because like he's the one that, like, you can say we didn't listen to our players, but you could also point out that, you know, we're sorry to Colin Kaepernick for how we treated him, or how we didn't acknowledge his, you know, his stance towards all this. Because like I rewatched his interview when he was still with the Niners, and like it is crystal clear what he is pointing out, and there's no ambiguity as to why he's doing what he's doing or how he feels about it. And it's like you could have understood that 3 years ago. Like it wasn't just like talking out of it, you know, out of the side of his head. It was as clear of a response as you're ever going to get over the past 3 years. This whole thing has been going on.
Very clear. You know what I mean? And my whole thing with Kaepernick is like I stated before, you know, he lost his job before he started kneeling because, you know, he wasn't the same player anymore. You know what I mean? Like he went from one of the best players in the NFL to literally one of the worst players in the NFL. You know what I mean? In a 3-10. So, but my whole thing is, you might not have had to give him a starting job back. You know what I mean? I don't think he would have been a starter anywhere now. But the fact that you guys actually tried to penalize players for kneeling, you tried to penalize people for expressing how they feel about a situation when they were trying to do it in a respectful manner. You know what I mean? And they were penalized for it. That's the part that's kind of like, okay, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of people have been boycotting the NFL and things of that nature. But like Fro said, it's a business move in my opinion, because right now, like, this is the biggest protest of all time. You know what I mean? This is worldwide. So I feel like a lot of these businesses fear that this could really be the turning point as far as people, you know, could possibly stop spending their money, period, when it comes to certain, you know what I mean? And Roger Goodell doesn't want to play around when it comes to that.
I was reading an article about that video with like Saquon Barkley, like Stephon Gilmore, with like Patrick Mahomes and all the guys that were part of that. And in the article, I think the article spoke to, you know, an anonymous source in the NFL. And I think if I remember correctly, they basically were like, the reason that the NFL was prompted into doing a response so quickly was because of Patrick Mahomes' involvement in that video. where you have the pretty much the new face of your league for, you know, at least 10 more years. Super Bowl champion, MVP, one of the biggest names, and he comes out, and you're like, oh, they basically like had to be an oh shit moment where it's like, okay, you know, when the top guy in your league is saying something, like, we have to do something, and it was incredibly reactionary, not like we were gonna do this. It wasn't like they were like planning on doing this and then like, okay, we did it a bit earlier because of this. It was like, no, oh shit, our MVP is saying something. All right, we gotta like appear to be listening or involved. And I mean, we'll see where the money goes with their big, like the NFL's big pledge to that kind of stuff. But like the fact that the owners agreed to have a rule where like if you want to protest, you can just go in the locker room and not take a knee on the sideline, which was really weird. But
can I piggyback off what you're saying, Pinky? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but there was actually a list that came out. Well, the list has been out for a while now, but it was a list of all the major corporations and businesses that publicly donated money to Trump's campaign.
Yeah.
The NFL was one of those organizations.
Yeah, there's a few owners.
It wasn't the NFL itself. It was actually like teams. Like
it was teams. Well,
yeah,
if you really look at it, they're teams within the NFL organization that kind of don't, not the NFL altogether, but teams within the NFL supported Trump's campaign. So like, honestly, I feel like them trying to get behind this is always going to look fake because it's like, y'all have teams within your organization that donates to this campaign, but now you're trying to get on this protest, which contradicts everything like the teams that donate to this campaign. Like, it's just like, to me, it's just like they're like on the fence. I don't care how you slice it. You're on the fence right now. You know, I don't like it. I just feel like a lot of players should just well, I mean, there's nothing they can really do at this point. Players continue protesting, but just the NFL altogether, it's always going to be shady because it's like, which side are you on? You know what I mean? You can verbally say this and take this pledge, but if you're still going to be donating to this man's campaign, it's kind of like you're just playing the fence, you know, because it's the safest decision to do as a business.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see who donates to who for this election. That'll be the most telling. Because it's not like, I mean, I'm not going to defend the owners here, but it's not like they voted Republican for the first time. Like, they were Republican supporters for decades and decades. So I'm not, but if they continue to support him during this election in particular, that is going to be even more damning than the first one. Because now you know what he's like for 4 years. It's not like, okay, he may be a bit crazy beforehand, but who knows what's going to happen. Now we know who he is and what he has done as president. So if you continue to support him, that's a real... Yeah,
you're making a conscious decision to support the fuck shit.
You're like, all right, I can live with that. If he's going to lower my taxes, I don't care what he says. But that we have to see who donates to who this election.
Yeah, I agree. Back off of what you said, Panky. I was actually just about to say, I think the list that came out was actually, I think it was 2016. I don't think it was 2020. You know what I mean? I think they donated to his campaign in 2016. But still, like you said, they didn't really know what to expect at the time. In my opinion, you know, Hillary and Trump were both, you know, kind of like, what the fuck? Like, this, you know, it's kind of we got to pick the lesser of two evils. So, I mean, at that time, it's like, okay. But now, you know, like, you got people like Kanye West who was out there protesting, you know what I mean, and came out and said that he's voting for Trump in 2020 again. You know what I mean? That's just ignorance, you know what I mean? And like you said, Panky, there's a lot of people that are just Republican, you know what I mean? And they just go with whatever the Republicans do. In my opinion, that's just like being a cop and you just riding with your fellow, you know, your partner or whatever because he's a cop. He might have shot like 5, 10 black people, but because he's a cop, you're going to defend him. In my opinion, it's the same shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is why, me personally, I'm not, Democratic. I'm not Republican. I'm an independent. If I vote for you based on your morals. I vote for you based on what I feel like you bring to the table, how you're gonna help the community. Like I don't give a damn what you are. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
And sort of segueing that into sort of where people stand on certain things. There's been a lot of news recently in the NBA about whether or not for the players, whether or not they should continue the season, because basically the main argument is whether or not is going to help or deter from the movements that are happening, all the awareness, all the protests. There seems to be a good chunk of NBA players that are at the very least questioning whether it should be a thing, if not openly being like, we shouldn't do this. I believe Kyrie Irving Kyrie Irving is the main one that's been named. Steven Jackson has also said that it might be a distraction. Obviously, he's not in the league at the moment, but he's on the front lines with all of this stuff. So it weighs a lot as for what he says. We were talking about this in our group chat about it, and I think it can't be ignored that it depending on how the NBA handles things, it could be a distraction or it could be a massive platform for this if they actually put the effort into planning something. I'll open that up to you guys.
What I will say is like I know this might sound crazy, but I agree with Stephen A. I think it might be a distraction, and the only reason why I say that is like, one, I know we're going through tough times, and we haven't had sports in a while, and sports is something that we all use as like an escape or like something to bring joy to our lives throughout, like good days, bad days, etc. But as of right now, this is the most active protesters have been in probably the last 50 years. And the amount of pressure that they've been putting on politicians and things of that nature, I don't know if we will ever get that same output from protesters like to this magnitude again. Granted, a lot of people are working. There isn't any sports. There isn't anything going on. So a lot of people have nothing but time and energy to zero in onto this protest and, do some real groundwork. I do feel like if the NBA do come back, I feel like that might be a distraction for, I feel like my people, just for the simple fact that, when sports come on, you can get distracted and actually going through everything we're going through. It's gonna be like sports is back on. All right, let's get it. And the pressure of like the whole protest might start to diminish just a little bit. Well, it could diminish a whole lot just because sports is back or whatnot. And the players coming back, I mean, yeah, they could help the protest, but at the end of the day, they're just people just like us. Just because they have a certain status, just because they make a certain amount of money, I don't feel like they're going to elevate the protest even more than what the people are doing now. At the end of the day, they're just people just like us. You know what I mean? I don't feel like we shouldn't look to celebrities or things of that nature to validate us in the protest. They're just influencers just like us. It doesn't matter what they may think or feel. We the people, have to be the ones to go out there and demand change. We can't really just leave it up to the celebrities to do it for us. Do I want the NBA to come back? Absolutely. Do I feel like it might be a distraction to some people? Not all, but some people? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, man, like everyone wants to go back to work. The players want to go back to work. So I mean, like, it's a toss up. Whatever happens, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, me personally, I don't really feel like it's a distraction. I actually feel like it's better, you know what I mean, if the NBA does come back, because you got to think about it now, right? Everybody's out there protesting. You're not going to see a lot of NBA players out there protesting. You'll see one or two. And the reason why that is because they have to go play, right? So they're worried about getting COVID-19, you know what I mean? So they can't be out there protesting. And then when it comes time for the NBA to resume, they mess around, get COVID-19, now the season stops again, right? But here's the thing: if the NBA does come back, there are no fans in the arena. There's none of that. So in my opinion, that gives them more of a platform to just use their voice, you know what I mean, and just protest. Like LeBron, I'll use LeBron as an example. Like his show, The Shop. Like I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but it's very informative. They pretty much speak their mind on there on everything, like any kind of issue that might be going on. They speak their mind and they speak their mind freely. You know what I mean? And as for somebody watching that, it kind of shows you like, oh shoot, like, you know what I mean? It gives you a different perspective on how they feel about things. And while I do agree with you on the fact that we don't necessarily need celebrities to speak out for us, I'm not going to say that it doesn't help, because it helps a whole lot. You know what I mean? Because they have millions of dollars. But somebody like me, yeah, I can speak and I can, you know what I mean? But like you were saying earlier, when, you know, sometimes when black people speak, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. But when black people with money speak, people that are looked up to around the world, like LeBron James is looked up to by all shades of color. You know what I mean? So people might hear LeBron speak and be like, oh shit, this is how my favorite player feels. There's a lot of white kids, a lot of Chinese kids, a lot of Asian kids that look up to LeBron James. So based on what he says, they can be like, oh shit, like my favorite player feels this way. Maybe I should feel that way too. You know what I mean? My favorite player feels like I should go out there and protest. Maybe I should. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people that idolize these guys. LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, you know what I mean? Damian Lillard, you know what I mean? And I'll always take it back to when Eric Garner was killed. You know what I mean? Just the NBA players wearing the I Can't Breathe t-shirts. That shit sent a powerful message, bro. It sent a powerful message. I know Kobe wore it, LeBron wore it, D Wade wore it. There was a ESPYs, I can't remember which ESPYs it was, but I think it was Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, LeBron. They, before the ESPYs even started, they came out and they spoke against racial injustice. And it made a huge difference. You know what I mean? The reason why I feel like this is the biggest protest of all time now is because, number one, people are tired. You know what I mean? Number two, we finally see all races coming together. In the other protests, it was kind of like, you know, we were saying Black Lives Matter, but pretty much everybody else was on the, oh, all lives matter. You know what I mean? I don't feel like people understood too clearly what was going on. You know what I mean? To their fault, because they should have. But I don't feel like they did. But with this that's going on right now, I feel like it's in your face. Like you can't not, you know what I mean? You saw a cop kneel on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Like, it's like, I don't care who you are. You can't look at that video and say, well, maybe he should have did this, maybe he should have did that. Like, it's clear, you know what I mean? It shows you the racial injustice. So I feel like all races coming together had something to do with this being the biggest protest of all time, you know what I mean? But I feel like, yeah, the athletes can use their platform to their advantage, you know what I mean? And also, I would have probably respected it more if Kyrie Irving wasn't leading the charge. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, that man always has an ulterior motive, bro. Like, I feel like, and if you notice, a lot of the players that are on the train with that right now are players that are not really playing for anything. They're not true contenders this year. They don't have no real shot at winning no title. You know what I mean? Like, Kyrie, my nigga, you're hurt. Like, you're not even playing. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like, you're hurt. You know what I mean? You know, like, come on, man. Damian Lillard, this is a guy that spoke up about coming back before this was even an issue. You know what I mean? Like, now, if you would have said, yeah, I don't want to come back because, you know, I don't want to risk getting COVID or whatever, that's cool. But don't try to play off the George Floyd thing. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying everybody is on that Kyrie train because, you know, Steven Jackson, I understand where he stands with it. You know what I mean? Even Dwight Howard, but Kyrie, like, come on, man. Like, you just trying to get healthy and come back next year so you and KD can win the chip. Like, that's cool. That's cool. But don't try to take money out of other people's mouths. And one more point. For the people that get paid by the NBA, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, if the NBA doesn't come back, what are they going to
do? Yeah.
I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about, you know, the other people that get paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to be left without a job. They're not, you know what I mean? I don't know how they've been compensated during this quarantine. You know what I mean? I don't know if all of them have been compensated. Maybe some of them have, but you also got to think about the livelihoods of those people. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just me playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm okay with either outcome because I understand both sides of it.
Yeah.
What if I think I touched on this before, but if the NBA doesn't use the broadcast time to address any of this, it's a wasted opportunity. Jack's going to join us in a second here, but what's important, I sort of put this into perspective. Like, we're all tapped into social media on this stuff, but we have to remember the people that, especially Twitter's more prevalent for this kind of stuff with like the live posting, but the people that use Twitter or regularly use Facebook is probably, I don't know the numbers on this, but it's going to be less than people that are going to tune into a basketball game occasionally, whether it's at a buddy's house or a bar or in their own free time. So if you spend time if the NBA spends time to show all the footage of people being involved in these protests, because there's been quite a few. Like unless you're actively following this, you're gonna miss out that DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook were protesting in Compton, or Damian Lillard and some other players were in Portland protesting. Enes Kanter was in Boston protesting.
Giannis.
Giannis was in Milwaukee handing out water bottles and stuff with his brothers. Like you need to use that to be like, we're not just sitting in our mansions being like, oh, this is awful, we need to do something. They are putting their their money where their mouth is. They're actually involved with them, because like, again, they're everyday people, so they're also going to protest with those same individuals, right? So if they don't take the time to actually highlight that stuff, it's going to be a missed opportunity, because more people are going to be tuned in than people like us that are just on Twitter all the time or on Facebook all the time, and are missing stuff like that, right? You see even NFL players like JJ Watt and Baker Mayfield are like checking people on Twitter that are like, oh, that you guys would never do that, and it's like, no, we'll do it. We'll protest with the same guys. Like, don't disrespect us like that as well. So because I mean, a lot of people, again, they don't follow the same Twitter feeds or trending topics and stuff for that. So if you need to force it into them. Like, if it's an empty arena, you could put a giant Black Lives Matter banner on like the empty seats, or something like that, or have a link where people can donate to certain things. And again, talk to the players. Don't just do the usual post game stuff where it's like, again, DeMar or Russell Westbrook, can you tell us what it was like when you were in Compton? Steph Curry, when you were in Oakland with your protest, can you share what that was like for you, and how what kinds of work you're seeing? Exactly. That'll do leaps and bounds rather than just the same Twitter statements. So
I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was looking at it too. You know what I mean? With the arenas being empty, you know what I mean? They can really hone in on what's going on with this whole, and it's a national televised, especially the games that come on like CBS and ABC, and you know what I mean? A lot of people are watching this, so if they tune in and they see how these players are really using their platform, it can really do some damage to the opposition.
Especially when you see what NASCAR has been doing, of all places. Well, they banned the Confederate flag stuff at the races, which was decades way too late. But also, I don't know if you guys saw the photos, but Bubba Wallace, he was driving a Black Lives Matter branded car.
Yeah.
One of the races, which you can't ignore that. Unless you stop watching the races, you're going to notice that the number 43 car is all decked out in Black Lives Matter, the black and white paint job and all that stuff, right? So you gotta keep bringing it up, and if you don't, it's just a waste, a pure waste. And with a lot of the broadcasters and stuff like that, it's gonna be hard for some of these guys to just keep silent, let alone the players. So I mean, something's gonna blow if they're not gonna be supportive of it.
I agree.
Yeah, the one thing I do like about the NBA players, they've been a lot more vocal about these, things over the past couple of years. You know what I mean? I feel like part of it has to do with, Adam Silver being the that he is. He allows them to speak their mind. He allows them to speak, you know what I mean? And they take full advantage of that. You know what I mean? I feel like LeBron, I mean, and other guys, you know, when they speak, people listen, you know, and I referenced the shop earlier. Obviously, they can't film the shop right now because of COVID-19. You know what I mean? Like all of these things that might have been helpful, they can't really use those right now because of COVID-19. So them being in that little bubble in Orlando, that could be their opportunity to come together as players. Like, let's say LeBron and Giannis, you know what I mean? They chilling in Disney World. Like, yo, somebody film this real quick. Like, yo, Giannis, how you feel about what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they can really get together and really like tackle this together as brothers, as a brotherhood. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at it.
I definitely agree. I mean, I can't wait to just see how just things move forward and like how players with everything going on, like how they use their platform even more. You know what I mean? Like with I feel like with everything going on, it's like almost like a different level of urgency for them to use their platform, especially since like they're really, like, to my knowledge, the only really league that has that much leeway with expressing themselves, you know. So like I feel like a lot of athletes are gonna look to them to exercise expressing themselves, because like NFL players, they don't have that luxury, you know what I mean? So I feel like it might be a little added urgency for them to, you know, just take advantage of the platform that they have.
Yeah, I agree.